Hey, today is Monday, February the 6th, and it's great to see you again. Well, it is officially Super Bowl week. That huge game that it seems all Americans stop and watch. Doesn't matter if you watch the game only because you like the new commercials, or maybe you just like to hang out with family and friends, or if you love the game because you love the competition and there is no bigger game in the whole year than the Super Bowl. Whatever the reason it might be, it is Super Bowl week, and the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles sure looks like it's going to be a great one. And, I'm a big sports fan. The NFL is not my favorite league. I'm much more of a baseball guy myself, but you can be sure I'll be watching it. The Linneman household has one son that is a big Eagles fan and the other son that's a big Chiefs fan. So you can be sure it's going to be a fun day, a fun night watching the Super Bowl in the Linneman household. However, I want to go back to the last round of games. I know there's no games played yesterday, but the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game were a couple weeks ago. The NFC Championship game was a dud. But the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Bengals, boy, that was a classic game. It was a great game. Two terrific teams filled with great linemen, great defenses, terrific coaches, and maybe most importantly, fantastic quarterbacks. And it was a game that, the Chiefs started off looking like they might run away with it, but then the Bengals came back, and by the fourth quarter, it was hard to tell which way the game was going to go. And even my wife, Corey, was watching it with me. And you got to understand, Corey, she's not a sports fan at all. But it was one of those games that, you watched it because you could just tell the level of skill that these players have. And even more than that, the amount of determination that they're playing the game at. And, I think that's why so many people love sports, because you see these people really pouring their heart into the game, putting absolutely everything they have into it to try and come out victorious. And when you see the two sides really just they're hitting harder, and every single play seems like it really matters, because it does. And then when the game comes down and it's tied with a minute to go, you can just feel the tension. And when the Chiefs got the ball back, and it looked like possibly they might be able to move the ball down and kick a field goal, but then it wasn't looking likely. But then there's 10 seconds left to go in the game, and if you watch the game, you know how this turns out. But the Chiefs had the ball around the 50-yard line, and they need another probably 20 yards to get into field goal range. Patrick Mahomes, the MVP, this great quarterback, drops back to pass. There's nobody open. So he takes off and runs it. And everybody holds their breath because Patrick Mahomes is playing with a rolled ankle. He's not healthy, and everybody's thinking, what are you doing? But he does it. He runs, he sprints, he picks up, maybe 10 yards or so, picks up the first down. But then, if you watch the game, you know what happens later. You know what happens next. Mahomes is going out of bounds when all of a sudden a Bengals player by the name of Joseph Osai hits him late. And it's very clearly a late hit. And, these guys are going full speed. They're going full blast. And Mahomes is out of bounds. Joseph Osai hits him. And I automatically holler out, that's a late hit. That's a 15-yard penalty. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. The Chiefs get into field goal range. They bring out their kicker, and he kicks the winning field goal. Chiefs win. Everybody in Kansas City and eastern Nebraska here, we're all celebrating. We're all happy that another, Super Bowl game is on the way. We can't wait to watch it. And then the game ends, and something that I really struggled with happened, because I think it was on CBS, the camera crew not only cut to Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all the Chiefs players, but they cut to that one player, the one Bengals player who made that late hit. And Joseph Osai is sitting on the bench all alone, and you can tell he's feeling it. He feels absolutely awful. Tears are streaming down his face. He's got his head down. Everybody else is off the field on his sideline, and he's there alone. And you know, if you're a human being, you can't help but to feel for that player, even if you're rooting against him, because you know this Joseph Osai. I'm sure he's a fine player. I don't know much about him, but he'll probably the one play that he'll always be, you know, marked with for the rest of his life is that play, and it's a bad play. I'm sure he'd tell you he made a mistake, but you know, at the end of the day, you probably look at 12 plays earlier in the game that the Bengals, if they would have done differently, they might have been able to win the game. But everybody's going to remember that one play at the end of the game, one stupid play that Bengals player made that everybody says cost them the game. And, you know, as I was watching it with Corey, I was a little bit bothered that, you know, CBS seemed to come back to him so many times. You know, they would cut to the victorious team, but then they'd go back to Joseph Osai. And it seemed like, you know, they went to him 6 or 7 times and he's on the bench, and it's sad. But then, you know, here's the point that I really want to lift up. As Osai is on the sideline, it seems that everybody has left. Everybody's gone into the locker room, and the Bengals are dejected. There's one player, just one player from the Bengals who comes back, who kneels down by his side, puts his arm on his shoulder pad, and starts talking to him. And I looked up this player. His name is Cameron Sample, number 96 for the Bengals. And I'm thankful for this player. I'm thankful for this guy because I think he demonstrated what friendship is all about. I think he demonstrates what our faith and what Jesus calls us to do when we've got people in our lives that are down, when we've got people in our lives that feel like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders, when we have people in our lives that truly need a friend, and it seems that, you know, everybody else has abandoned this one person. Cameron Sample, number 96, was there, and I love that moment to see, you know, just one teammate still by his side, you know, trying to lift him up, trying to console him. And it reminds me of this Bible passage. It comes to us from Galatians 6, verse 2, and it's a great one, and it was very timely for what we witnessed at this last football games. Galatians 6:2 says this: bear one another's burdens. Bear one another's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. That's what we're called to do. We're called to bear each other's burdens. We're called to be by their side, to celebrate them with them in the good times, but you know, maybe more importantly, to be there in those tough times, in those trying times. And so, a little lesson from the Bible to bear each other's burdens in our lives. I'm so glad you stopped in again for this weekly devotion. I hope you're blessed, and I'll see you again next Monday. Amen.